Hello and welcome back to another episode. Now today I'm really pleased to bring you a sort of review for a recent release on DVD, and that is this, Street Fighter Assassin's Fist. Now I saw this yesterday actually in the local supermarket, and I was like, oh, do I want to get that? I'm not sure, because obviously I've been burned by previous live-action Street Fighter storytelling attempts. There was the 1994 Street Fighter movie, which wasn't very good, but it's kind of good in a horrendous way, as it were. And then more recently there was the 2009 Street Fighter The Legend of Chun-Li, which again just wasn't really up to par. Now I say up to par because there have been some excellent Street Fighter stories told from the broader world, the mythos of Street Fighter. These have been told in the form of manga and also in various artistic and fan fiction forms for many years, and Street Fighter Assassin's Fist I think comes the closest to really doing the story of Ryu and Ken, but also actually just the thinking and the feeling behind Street Fighter justice. Now, am I overstating this? Well, I don't think so. My love of Street Fighter really begins with the games, obviously, and hopefully for most people it does also. In my case, on the Mega Drive, Super Street Fighter 2 was where I sort of cut my teeth with Street Fighter. It was a steep learning curve, and unfortunately I was only fighting with a 3-button controller, not the sort of quasi-professional 6-button controller. But I loved the game, and I loved reading reviews, I loved the art style, I loved the attitude of the game, and I loved the fact that actually it was a deep learning system, that you could fight on the surface and still win, but also you could really get better and learn the undercurrents, the building of combos, the combo theory, as it were. And that, for example, more recently has manifested, for me at least, with only a copy of Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition on the Xbox 360. Still, a great game, again, lots of depth, and a story which I continue to be hooked on. So for me, getting it right is important, and this film gets it right. Now, initially I was thinking, oh, do I really want to get this thing? So I googled it, I came home, looked it up online, and actually you can watch it right now for free. It originally aired as 12 webisodes of between 11 and 12 minutes long on the Machinima YouTube channel, and right now you can turn this off and go and watch it, go and watch the whole thing in sequentially in these little episodes. But I would recommend getting it on DVD, or indeed, for example, the special edition Blu-ray, because as one long story, it's 2.5 hours long, this film, without the breaks of the episodic breaks. This story is inspiring, thrilling, epic in the way it should be, and also tells a story in the same kind of way as some of the best martial arts films out there. This was made by fans for fans. Indeed, actually on the extras you learn that the director and writer, or co-writer, and his friend who plays Ken, they were playing Marvel vs. Capcom, and they decided someone needs to do this justice, someone needs to make a film that can really tell this epic story, and I have to say, for me, they've pulled it off. Now, Assassin's Fist is a translation of the style of fighting that Ken and Ryu are learning. It's Ansatsuken, and this Assassin's Fist is a dangerous martial arts style, which does, as with all these epic stories, have a dark path. And this whole story really revolves around the temptation of people to go down this dark path. Obviously, Star Wars was not the first to do this, this sort of dark martial arts kind of thing, and these guys certainly aren't the first to do it, but they've done it well. Now, really, as I say, it revolves around the training of Ryu and Ken, their master, Goken, and his brother, Goki, who becomes Akuma. And indeed their relationship with their sensei, their master, Gotetsu. Now, it sounds complicated, and it is complicated, but in the best possible way, in the same way that, say, Lord of the Rings is complicated, or actually Star Wars itself is complicated. You start to have interwebs of relationships, complicated reasons, complicated motivations for behaviour, and you get sucked into the story. This is one of the reasons why I like I said, I watched it last night, couldn't stop watching it, 2.5 hours long, went to bed late, but loved every second of it. It's a story told in the best possible traditions of Japanese storytelling, American filmmaking, and also as well those classic samurai and karate and kung fu films. It's very, very good. But more than this, it really does fan service. In this film you will see the Hadoken, the Shoryuken, the Tatsumaki Senpukyaku, and also the super combos, including the Shinku Hadoken and the Metsu Hadoken. You get to see the moves being pulled off correctly, just as you've learned them. If you've been fighting in Street Fighter over the years, just as you've learned to pull them off, they're pulled off in the right way at the right time, following the right moves. This was made by people who know how to fight, but also who know how to street fight, and who have played the games. And again, it's just so satisfying for that. The big baddie in this is Akuma, and he is tempted down the path of Satsui no Hado, which is sort of like a murderous intent. It's an overpowering desire to destroy and to kill and to maim through your power and to destroy your enemy, which it's explained in the film is necessary for standard assassin's fist fighting, but it must be controlled and purged out of the body, otherwise you will be corrupted. And Gouki, Gouken's brother, is corrupted by this dark Hado, and he becomes Akuma. Now, the whole film actually starts out with an epic fight. Right out of the gate, you are treated to Ken and Ryu fighting by a river, doing all of the classic Street Fighter moves in live action with pretty good CGI actually. And it then goes back in time to tell you how they got to this point, and it takes 2 hours to get back to that point, but those 2 hours are very satisfying. You have two story arcs essentially: the story of Ken and Ryu learning their martial arts and their craft, and also the story of Gouken, Gouki and Gotetsu, and how these relationships between men, boys and men, in the wilderness, learning to fight, how they develop and how they can become their world. That is their world, and when things go wrong, everything is at stake. Now, not only do you have the fan service in terms of the moves, a little bit of, for example, reference, say, to the US military bases and bars and some of the characters who turn up in the game in those sort of scenarios, but also as well you have explanations as to why it is, for example, that Ryu's appearance changes over time. For example, he takes on Ken's headband. It starts off white and becomes red, just as in the games. You have the kanji, the four symbols which appear on some of Ryu's clothing, given to him through the course of this film on his belt. These four symbols actually are in Sun Tzu's Art of War, which talk about wind, forest, fire and mountain, the principles behind being a great warrior and a great fighter. But also as well, not only do you have these explanations, these character building explanations as to why it is that Ryu and Ken are the way they are. For example, Ken eventually, he starts out with long hair and eventually has it cut, just as he does again in the sequence of the games, in the timeline. But also as well, you have a little bit of fan service in the sense that they love their computer games. So in 1989, in this film, Mega Man 2 is released, and both Ken and Ryu, and actually even Gouken, are fascinated by Mega Man 2. They're loving it, and just as, again, you and I and many people out there, we love Street Fighter, we love Mega Man, we love Capcom, and I love this film. Can't get enough of it. Now, I don't want to go too much, I suppose, into the content of the film in terms of story. This film deserves watching, and it deserves watching in one sitting, and it deserves watching with a little bit of patience but also anticipation. It pays off really, really well, and it ends on a cliffhanger. It ends powerfully, and I can't wait to see what happens next. Hopefully, presumably, this DVD release, the Blu-ray release, and also the release online, the Machinima webisodes, will prove the popularity of this story and this form of storytelling for this franchise, and we'll actually get more. We'll get to see what happens after the cliffhanger at the end of this film. We'll get to see maybe other characters. Chun-Li will eventually hopefully come in, and they may be bump into Guile, for example. I can imagine Guile being at one of these US air bases, perhaps. And eventually, hopefully, through the expansion of Ryu and Ken into the world, through their journey to find themselves and to be better warriors, we'll get to see the full roster of the Street Fighter canon. I cannot wait, and this has been a really, really great experience. I highly recommend it. If you haven't watched the webisodes, go and have a look, and if you like what you see, buy the DVD or the Blu-ray. Get it, because not only will you watch it again, and not only does it warrant watching in one sitting as one big film, but also as well, this, if you support it, this will see better and more money and more production value put into this form of Street Fighter storytelling. This is exactly what we all want from these films, and it taps into essentially the ethos of Street Fighter, and that is you can become a better fighter in the game by struggling, by studying, and by fighting other people, by becoming a better warrior. And that's basically what the story is in this film. It's about being a better warrior, but physically as opposed to using your thumbs. Anyway guys, as I say, do check it out, it's well worth a watch. A really, really solid effort. Yes, at times the script is a little bit hokey, and at times the delivery isn't perfect, but I don't care. This has been the best live action Street Fighter experience I've ever had, and you guys should go away and watch it. Anyway, as ever, until next time, do take care. Bye bye.